This vote is an affirmation that the United States Senate will stand up and protect the rights of all Americans to marry the person they love. Although this is about codifying rights that same-sex couples already enjoy, this is an important step in a long-running battle for equality. During my 1996 campaign for the Senate, I ran on the proposition that there is a fundamental right to privacy in America. And I summed it up by saying, if you don't like gay marriage, don't get one. So I became the first member of the Senate to openly support marriage equality. Soon afterwards, there was a debate on a truly bad law, the Defense of Marriage Act, which I opposed for the same reasons. It was a breach of our country's fundamental right to privacy. Now the Senate has a chance to rectify that wrong and repeal it. I'm always going to go to the mat to defend the right to privacy in America. The bottom line is that protecting somebody else's rights doesn't take anything away from your own rights. Our country is indisputably stronger when everyone's rights are protected. Some members of this body have questioned why we need to pass this bill when marriage equality is the law of the land. The answer is pretty straightforward. The Dobbs ruling, which overturned Roe v. Wade, showed that the Senate cannot take any modern legal precedent for granted. With the possible exception of Brown v. Board, no precedent is safe as long as Clarence Thomas and Sam Alito are openly calling for the court to revisit major rulings. It's not just Justice Thomas and Justice Alito making these arguments in public. These days, many Republicans have openly talked about their belief that the court ruled incorrectly in some of the most significant cases dealing with the expansion and recognition of individual rights in America. The Obergefell ruling, marriage equality. The Griswold versus Connecticut ruling, the rights of women to use contraception. Even the Loving versus Virginia ruling, the right to interracial marriage. Some members of Congress have called all those other legal precedents into question. These backward debates, Madam President, now unfold in Congress, in the courts, in the state houses. The backdrop behind them is frightening, raising levels of hatred and bile spewed at LGBTQ Americans every day of the week. The far right is now targeting gay and trans Americans in an effort to scare everybody else into taking away their rights. There's no question that when leaders participate in ratcheting up anti-gay rhetoric, it spills out into the real world across the country. The community of Colorado Springs is still mourning the lives lost in a mass shooting at a gay nightclub a few days before Thanksgiving. 5 people were killed, more than a dozen others hospitalized with gunshot wounds. If not for the actions of a few brave individuals, including a military veteran, the death toll would have been much higher. Passing the Respect for Marriage Act, Madam President, is not going to end the hateful rhetoric and violence for good, but the Senate has an opportunity and an obligation to declare with this vote that hate is wrong. That we will stand up and defend the vulnerable, that will protect the individual rights of all Americans from a far-right Supreme Court majority determined to turn the clock back by decades. There just is no place for hate or intolerance in our great country. So today I'm proud to be able to cast a vote in a bit for individual rights, for freedom, for privacy, and equality. I want to thank all the members of this body who've worked for months to bring this bill to the floor with bipartisan support. And I hope that the Senate will be able to continue this progress with colleagues on both sides in the months and years ahead. Madam President, I yield the floor, and I note the absence of a quorum.
The clerk will call the roll.